Brought to you by Gamevo.com. Get the cheapest game time on the market, as well as other Warcraft products. Check out the link in the description below. I've previously covered which expansion had the worst lore, but now let's look on the positive side. What expansion so far had the best stories, the best background, and felt the most fulfilling from a lore perspective? I think most of us can agree that Warcraft lore has gone way too far. The release of Classic really brought this contrast, and it almost feels like an entirely different game. You went from a regular adventurer helping out your faction and doing these quests, at the most fighting a dragon or an elemental lord, to traveling to a different dimension, imprisoning titans that controlled an entire universe, and now challenging death itself. I'm honestly not a massive fan of either, and my belief is that the answer is the balance between the two and that the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. So it's not ideal to be a space warrior god master, but also it's not ideal to just be a simple grunt. It just isn't that fun. If we count Classic as an expansion, I can't really say that it had great lore. It had a lot of legacy from Warcraft 3 and a few of the books that were written prior to the release, but I think the main reason why the game was so successful and just so insanely popular was that WoW itself really molded the MMORPG genre, and it was really revolutionary at the time. This aspect really brought the most excitement, but now in 2020 when you play it, you can see that not much is happening, at least from a lore perspective. There are a ton of fetch quests, there is some setup for the future like an Extremis and the Black Dragon fight, but overall it kinda lacks an overarching story, something to really bind it together. Blizzard obviously realized this, and instead of boosting it by like 20 to 30% and giving us a bit more significance, they decided to just smash that and go to like 2000%. Luckily, they didn't do that immediately, and the first few expansions, in my opinion, were excellent. I can't say much about the Burning Legion, of course, as they definitely messed up the lore there. It was super exciting to see the new world of Outland and to explore the story at the time, but looking at it now, it was a massive mistake, as half of that lore is retconned, and they really ruined some characters completely, like Kel'Thas for example. However, in my opinion, Wrath of the Lich King was like the sweet spot, as in the ideal where we should be balance-wise in terms of power. Wrath of the Lich King had really everything you want from a lore perspective, an amazing background story from Warcraft 3 which entirely shaped the expansion, a real sense of threat, an entire continent to explore, and so many new background stories that felt so rewarding as you uncovered each mystery after mystery. Most importantly, the power balance was there. When you look at Wrath of the Lich King from this point now, you can see that Arthas was like an ant compared to Sargeras, but damn did he just feel so much more dangerous. He obliterated Lordaeron, he took over Northrend and enslaved almost all inhabitants, he attacked our capitals, he created the evil Death Knight Order, we got destroyed at the Wrathgate. It really felt like we were a part of this worldwide war effort of survival, and that we needed every single advantage that we could get to face this evil. We weren't some crazy powerhouses that were Titan champions of Azeroth infused by ancient spirits, but instead we were soldiers, we helped organize assaults, and we went on undercover missions to weaken Arthas and to recruit any help we could get. Aside from the main storyline, the other storylines were amazing as well, from the failing Trolling Kingdom to the Forsaken by God Vykel. Most importantly, there was Ulduar, the place that felt like mystery in itself. We walked into the Chamber of the Titans, these gigantic beings that we couldn't even imagine, and we realized that this place was haunted by an old god. That, combined with the epic chanting music, really just made it one of the highlights of Warcraft, for me at least. It really was this distance from the Titans that made the story so epic, and now when we're working with them and we can see them sitting on these thrones, they really don't seem like that big of a deal. It is similar to the story with the old gods as well, as Yogg-Saron in Ulduar, he really felt invincible, like there was literally nothing we could do against this guy, but as we now defeated the released N'Zoth, it kind of ruined that entire storyline and that view. Now, aside from Wrath of the Lich King, there were two expansions that, in my opinion, had good lore. First was Cataclysm, which had its errors of course, but still provided a lot of good storylines. The threat of Deathwing really was there, and seeing that he literally shattered our planet, we could feel the imminent danger, and much like with the Lich King, it felt like a constant effort to stop him from accomplishing his goals. It actually felt like he could accomplish his goals. The Goblin and the Worgen storylines were great. Vashtir was a really unique zone, unlike anything we had ever seen, and there were some excellent stories with the visions of the end of Azeroth, the Egypt-like Oldhim, and the Old God threat and all of their minions. Next, we had Pandaria. From this perspective, it really wasn't that bad of an expansion. It wasn't an amazing expansion, but it wasn't bad, especially lore-wise. Although, I do remember when the trailer first came out and it was announced, and everyone complained that WoW was now a children's game, it was Kung Fu Panda, and that the lore is just completely dead. Pandaria provided a lot of unique content, a new continent, the same mysterious old god influence, Lei Shen is the old evil returning to Azeroth, the Zandalari expeditions, and ultimately the Siege of Orgrimmar, Garrosh turning evil, and the rebellion, which definitely felt unique at the time. As this was the first ever Civil War, it really felt like something. The threat was sort of there, which can't really be said about the recent Sylvanas one, as that definitely felt like the rehashed version of Siege of Orgrimmar. After these expansions, in terms of anything decent, there was Legion. I really didn't like Legion as an expansion overall, but I can't deny that it had some really good lore going around. There was some great stuff with the uncovering of the entire universe, what the Burning Legion was really doing, and all the various side stories, the forgotten elves of Suramar that were now struggling, the High Mountain Tauren, and some of those artifact storylines. However, overall, Legion really could have easily been spread across like 2 expansions, and it felt incredibly rushed. In my opinion, it committed one of the worst offensives to the balance of power, and that was really when things in World of Warcraft started going way out of whack. So overall, I would say that Wrath of the Lich King was the best, and in my opinion, that was when WoW really peaked. Cataclysm and Pandaria were the peaks, like the smaller and the smaller ones, and it really dropped to nowhere with Worlds of Draenor, and with Legion, it was lifted a bit. A lot of this is also reflected by the sub numbers, at least when we had access to them. The biggest issue with World of Warcraft right now is the balance of power, and I'm not sure we can really go back after we defeated the old gods and imprisoned Sargeras. Like, who are we gonna fight that isn't even bigger than them? Still, I do have high hopes for Shadowlands, and I'm looking forward to what Blizzard can do next. Thank you for watching. Check out what expansion had the worst lore by clicking on the screen, and also check out my second channel, Doran's Academy, for videos on real world history and science. See you next time.